Not a dumb question. We'll answer that in just a minute. MXXL. What's good? What's good? What's good, Anastasia? Yeah, Project Sunrise is a project that was created by Destiny fans to preserve some of the sunset content in Destiny 2. It allows you to access areas that were sunset in 2020. And it's pretty cool. It's a pretty awesome project. You're able to go back in time and wander around, and there's been some advancements made, and as more of the community is pouring their time and energy and effort into it, we're seeing the project get better. People are able to spawn in Callus, which is crazy. Like, how does that even happen? Can spawn in the raid boss in Leviathan. Destiny 2 before the DCV, yeah. So we explored it in our last stream, and we'll continue to explore it, of course. But yeah, it's pretty crazy stuff, huh? Pretty crazy stuff, indeed. What's up, everybody? Happy to have you here. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you hanging out. We got a variety of different news stories to cover today. As usual, we're out here checking out what's going on in Destiny and in the larger gaming world, etc. I wish Destiny didn't die, says Wonder Circus. That's the way it goes sometimes, man. That's the way it goes. And it sucks, but it is what it is. All right, here we go. Let's start from the beginning, and let's get this started. Let me go here. Watching whilst coding / developing my MC mods. What's your MC mods? Minecraft mods? Very nice. Alright, let's go here. Your Warlock? I'll allow it today. It would be interesting to see if things went the Rooster Teeth direction. We got some fun fan cinematic stories. Yeah. What's the news I need to know? Okay, so let's get into it. There we go. Yes. We're gonna get into this as well. Let me see here. Yeah, so Project Sunrise is progressing very quickly. Someone spawned Callus and Leviathan, and someone was able to track another player's location within the same environment on separate clients. So it's about to get crazy. The bottlenecks are unknown. There are 6,000 consecutive steps that need to happen in order to get a fully functional multi-mission campaigns where God help you full-scale raids. They started at step 1 and now are maybe like step 13, yeah. It's crazy. Currently a Cobblemon content pack. Hey, very nice. Yeah, I was playing Cobblemon not too long ago. That's awesome. Can't wait. Let's go Blackfire. All right. Here we go. We're going to cover some of this for a video here. I think this is interesting. Could be a nothing burger. But I think it could be a something burger. You never know. Let's see what we got here. Let me pull this up. Pull this up. Good. Go here. Like this. All right. All right. Here we go. Here we go. Bungie has been suspiciously quiet over the last week. And I don't know, man. I don't know if this is a good thing, a bad thing. Maybe they're cooking up that incubation project, or maybe they're just all packing it up, about ready to head out. I mean, if you look at the current status of Marathon, you can't help but feel like that's probably what's coming for them. But they did say there was an incubation project. So before I read too much into this, let me give you a rundown of what's going on. DMG, who's the principal communications manager at Bungie now, right? He was previously the Destiny communications manager. He's now migrated as basically just a Bungie employee. So I'm imagining he's working on the incubation project and Marathon, or maybe just the incubation project. I'm not sure. But nothing has been greenlit at this stage, so it's kind of this weird in between where, projects in the incubation phase have a much higher chance of being scrapped or basically never getting the green light. The green light is the big key. That's like when a budget is being allowed for the game, and the company, in this situation Sony, is going to actually fund the project. DMG normally tweets, very regularly. He's got August 9th. He talked about what was your first raid. August 8th, he talked about Spider-Man. August 8th again. August 7th, August 6th, August 5th, August 5th. This guy is tweeting basically every day, multiple times. But now it's been a week since the last time he posted a tweet. It's been a week. It's going dark. It's not good. All right? And I know you might be thinking, is this really that much? The last time we saw going dark, we went into the dark ages, literally, for Destiny 2. Everything got quiet. We kept screaming into the void, what's happening? And then they were like, oh yeah, the game's dead. Every end is a new beginning, boys and girls. So I'm not sure if that's what's happening right here. Obviously, that's not what I want to happen. I always want there to be more games to play and talk about. I don't want to see Bungie as a company go down. But they seem to kind of have their priorities out of whack, and they're doing a lot of things that just aren't very successful in video game development as of late. So they're looking like they're cooked. But let me know what you think about it. Why do you think Bungie is being suspiciously quiet as of recently? What's good, Radar? How's it going? I'm going to add more powerful weapons to my Destiny Gauntlet. Nice. Very good. Dude, this is crazy. This is an entire conversation that I think is fascinating, which is the Witness, some early exploration for the Witness. Aren't they getting sued again? Is Bungie getting sued? By who? By who, Chaotix? What's good, Snowy? How's it going? How's it going? I feel like they quit for weeks after Marathon's failure. I don't know what's happening right now. What do you think about this Witness concept art, though? I actually don't think this is better than the current Witness, but I do think that it's like, it just looks a little bit more gruesome and ominous and scary. What you think? Give me 1 second. I'll be right back. Kakis made a video about it, but I'm not sure by who. This one? Sony's now getting sued for billions? Uh-oh. Let's check it out. We'll check it out later today. Hello, can I pause the video? YouTube. What the fuck? Why are we loading? Bruh. What is happening right now? There we go. All right, good. The Sony, yeah, no worries. All right, let's do this. I think this is fascinating. What Bungie did to the witness should have been a crime. We had been saying this since the witness's early reveal, but the initial impressions of how the biggest, baddest villain in the Destiny universe looks were a little lackluster, right? So let's rewind the time to when Bungie unveiled the witness before we look at some of this early exploration concept art. This is the witness that we got. Okay, this was like the first cutscene. You got the darkness, pyramid ships, very ominous, flying behind him. He's got the smoke coming out of his head, which I think is actually pretty wicked, and especially with the faces, when you understand like the lore of what this creature is and how it came to be. I think it's pretty fucking awesome that it has like literal the faces, right, coming out of its head. That's awesome. All right. The unibrow, I mean, you know, the eyes, though. The eyes is really what kills it. The eyes look like this. Puss in Boots, the kitty cat. I don't know why they went this route with the eyes. The eyes should have looked like this, dude. This is what the eyes should have looked like. Look at this. God damn. This almost makes you uncomfortable. You're looking at this window like, damn, that looks like something I would be scared of. Holy shit. And the faces in their head is like ghost faces. Like dead souls trapped, right? It even the head smoke looks better in this one. The spikes coming out. I kind of like his sleek look, and I actually like the way he like kills things and like destroys things with a little finger wag. I think that's pretty epic. It kind of reminds me of like, not reminds me necessarily, but like you think of like Dragon Ball Z when they're doing like these like crazy powerful moves, you know, doing a Kamehameha, and he's like he has to like scream and put all this energy into it, right? Like a being like the witness that's so powerful that kind of like destroys things like this, just goes, you know, and like that's kind of crazy. I think that's awesome. I think the finger wag destruction of, you know, anything is like shows just how powerful it is. Like so powerful that it just with the flick of a wrist it can destroy anything. I think that's a really cool vibe and a really like whoa, like that's like scary, right? I don't know why they went with this. My only thought process that I could give to it, why they went with the Puss in Boots eyes, was like cats are like apex predators, right? So like, you know, like, oh, you know, you think you'd want to pet this cat, but this cat would probably bite your freaking arm off, right? He looks very cute. You know, I would probably try and pet this cat, but this cat would probably murder us out in the jungle, you know what I'm saying? So maybe they were going like apex predator vibes by choosing the cat eyes, but I don't know. It didn't land as well as I think they thought it would. It did get a lot of buzz and a lot of talk, but maybe not in the right way. I genuinely think that this gives the right buzz. This is the right Destiny tone. And I think that this is like the same crew that was cooking up Lightfall, you know? Like that's the kind of vibe it gives me. Like the same dingleberries that were making Lightfall and all that bullshit, and the ones that made Edge of Fate were like, yeah, let's make his eyes look like this. Like that whole era of Bungie where they just kept like missing the mark and kind of doing things that didn't quite add up. Kind of like begins with Lightfall, and you kind of see those similar missteps in direction time and time again. And I think that this lines up with that. Now, I will say Salvation's Edge incredible. Like, this does not take away from the raid Salvation's Edge. Obviously, the concept artists and then the literal like the raid itself are going to be kind of separated by two different teams. And I think that the Witness in the raid looks different. Yeah, so this is the Witness in Salvation's Edge, and he has kind of like all black eyes here even. He doesn't quite have that same like pupil. That like pupil that's like round, that like big round pupil. That's the problem here. That's the problem that looks like cutesy, that doesn't quite match the tone. Like, it doesn't quite fit the vibe. I think the all black eyes, at least from this distance, is what they look like, match it a little bit better. Yeah, you can even see it here. Like, this looks better. The unibrow is still a little like, all right, like, are we fucking around? Like, are we, you know what I'm saying? Like, who was like, the Witness needs a unibrow, right? Without the unibrow, it's a no-go. Like, who said that, right? Who made that decision? Can we take this and like I want to take his unibrow off right now. That's it. We're doing it. This is my elite art skills right here. This is, you know what I'm saying? This is how we pay the bills with this paint.net skills. Dude, this is fire. This in a low taper fade. I'm just saying, bro. This in a low taper fade. This is crazy. That's what they were thinking about it, right? They were like, let's do a low taper fade. That would be they're like, what if he wears glasses? I mean, this is better, okay? This is already better. It definitely has Megamind vibes as well, if you haven't seen Megamind. Yeah, this motherfucker, dude. Yes, this. They were like Megamind, but evil. Actually evil. The lore behind the Witness and then the way the Witness looks just there's a little bit of a mismatch, right? So this is the early concept art, okay? Someone was cooking this up and everyone is talking about this online. This has divided the Destiny 2 community into two different encampments. You're either team, this is peak, this is what it should have been, or your team, the Witness, the way we got him is better. I actually find myself somewhere in the middle where I do think that I like the tone of this better, but I actually like the product of the Witness the way we got him better with the smoke above his head. I think that's better. And like a bipedal creature versus like walking on all fours like this, where he's like kind of like a war beast vibe almost. I don't know, like I don't like it as much. It's not quite as intimidating for me. I kind of like the bipedal, like human look to him, right? He has a very, he looks like the most powerful human in some ways, like an alien human, of course, but it has a more intimidating tone. So the aura, the energy from this clears, in my opinion. This is awesome. I like this. There's a very ominous vibe to it. But yeah, overall, I don't know that I really want to see a dog Witness necessarily, a war beast Witness. So I kind of wish, I don't think I like either of them perfectly, but I do like this one. Genuinely, this one right here. This is crazy. The eyes are kind of like sunk in his head too, like they're like sunk back, like he's almost like depraved, like he's got like an evil look in him, like he wants to kill you. You know? This guy right here looks like he wants a hug. This guy right here, this is a fucking Disney character, you know? This is like a TV show Witness and Pals, right? Like this guy could do a collaboration with Paw Patrol easily. This wouldn't have been too bad either, though, right? I mean, let's like just take a bit. Like, this wouldn't have been. Look, just hear me out for a minute. Hear me out. If we had, if we had cooked it, you know what I'm saying? If we had gotten rid of Pete a little bit sooner, we could have literally turned him into the witness. Okay. This would have completed the arc. All right. This would have come full circle. I just love how it's like his face and then like the little faces above his head. The exotic car collection in the background. Like instead of the darkness ships, it's the witness Pete Parsons and his exotic car collection, dude. This is honestly, this is genuinely better than this. Like I am not joking. I am not kidding at all. This clears every time. The exotic car collection kills me. The darkness ships are gone. All right. Let me know where you stand on this topic, though. How are you feeling about this concept art? I kind of wish we got to see a little bit more as well, where they were going with it. You know, this is meant to be the magnum opus of Destiny, right? This story that's, you know, even if the game's only like 11, 12 years old, the story was written, you know, almost 15 years ago. So, like a 15-year-old story, very rare that something like that in media can sustain itself, especially as a live service for so long, right? Like books last forever. Of course, you write a book, it's out there forever. But Destiny stayed very popular for a long time. So you wanted the ending to be written by truly the most like iconic character ever. And I just think they missed the mark with the witness that they came up with. And I don't think this would have landed well either. I don't think this would have been the perfect solution. This seems like it's very early concept as well. Like it doesn't seem like a finished product. Like the images in front of here, I don't know what this is, like some freaking dog turds or something. Doesn't even seem properly rendered in. But the ominous vibe is there. And I just wish that we had gotten a scarier witness. I do feel like this was a microcosm for the problems that were happening with Destiny 2 and maybe with like Bungie's identity and like where they were, you know, going with the franchise and where they were, like, what they were evolving into as a company. And I feel like the decisions like this are so important. Like this is a decision that you should lose sleep over if you're the creative director. Like you should actively spend like probably months or years. Like think about it. Like your whole life's work is put into like what is the final boss, the final boss? What is he going to look like? And this is going to be remembered forever. You know, like Destiny, even if it's dead, right? This will be remembered by millions of people. 100 million people played this damn game. Even more have interacted with it or seen it online, you know? And so you want to obsess over these small details. And I wonder who pulled the final trigger on this. You know, do you think this was Jason Jones? Do you think Jason Jones really was like, yeah, that's the shit right there? I don't know. Something about it tells me that wasn't him, but I feel like he would get the final decision right because he's literally the guy. So if he did cook this up, honestly, bro was not cooking that day. And probably is a regret, I would have to guess. It would be nice to see if there was an explanation for the eyes. Like I said, I think it's the apex predators, like cats, you know, the big cats, they're apex predators. Even those eyes aren't exactly the right ones, but it's like, I kind of think that was the idea they were going with, but clearly it didn't land quite as well. Paul Tassi posted about this on Twitter, and he said that this is much better, that he actually likes this form of the witness better. He said that Destiny is a beautiful game with great art direction. And then there was the witness. So he thinks that the witness was the beginning of a thematic shift in the art direction of Destiny, which I actually agree with that sentiment. I do think that something about this is a jarring, like you're almost like, is this even is this destiny? And I think that that's okay because those questions kind of beckon how much different this being is from the rest of the universe because of where he comes from as well. It kind of makes sense, I guess. So I don't necessarily hate that we think that or feel that way. I just think that we should have thought this is this destiny, but we were kind of clowning on it, you know? And I think that that direction not as cool. He said this is much better. And so we got a few different people saying in. Someone said the top comment here, the one with the most likes, says, "No, this is straight up silly, Paul." LOL. So not everyone's agreeing that this is, objectively better, but it's an opinion, so it's fine. Sneaky Beaver says, "I get that the design for the Witness is viewed as goofy by most people, but this also just looks like a giant Cabal war beast with a black coat of paint and a hollow mask from Bleach slapped on. More intimidating and cool, sure. Much better than what we got in Salvation's Edge. I don't know about that." So yeah, I mean, if you had to compare them 1-to-1, no, I don't think that the War Beast holds up. But I think that the tone is more interesting. And I think that's the real key here. Someone said the concept that they went with was based on Hecatoncheires. I don't even know how to pronounce that. What is this? Some Greek mythology? The 100-handed giants from Greek mythology. Ooh. Head in mouth dog witness is pretty cool though. Yeah, I mean there's an element. I like the witness's arms thing. Like I think the arms is great. The multiple arms. This is very scary. Very intimidating. Love this. No problem with the arms. It's just the eyes that's the issue, in my opinion. And his like slim, slender design, like I actually think that looks kind of very futuristic. And like I imagine in the future, like I guess the way I think of science fiction is like the aliens in the future, they have like giant heads because their brains are so big, but then they have really slim bodies because they have no need to like exercise or physical movement because they've just created like advanced technologies. Like my gaming chair can like fly around, like it's a fucking spaceship basically. So I never need to like physically move my body to stand up or anything. And so my body from my neck down is like super thin and like gangly and like weak, but it doesn't matter because the technology is so many, millions of years more advanced than anything we've ever seen. So like I don't need to have a physically strong body. But then our brains are so much bigger because we're so much more advanced and much more computational power. I don't know. It's like in my mind, that's like what I think of in science fiction when I think of like a super advanced alien civilization. And I like those tones. And I like that in The Witness. So I don't mind his slim, slender body. I think that everything was so good. The lore was incredible. The campaign, everything. The raid, oh my God, don't even get me started. Everything was so good. The eyes were just weird. Like, it's like a weird hill to die on, I guess, but they were weird. Reading through some of these other comments here, seeing what people are saying. This guy says, "Come on, man, this would have been laughed into oblivion. The dog memes also alone would have been insane." 339 likes. Yeah, so not the most loved Witness design. I really like the direction they took, the Witness's design. They could have easily gone for menacing, complex design, but the subtlety and restraint in the final design is what makes it so good. All right. This guy says, "Huh, Paul? What the fuck are you talking about? Everything from the Witness as aesthetic to the pyramid ships to the symbolism, everything was beautiful. What type of take is this?" So some people are very, very upset about this. They're not happy with the dog Witness out here. Witness looked like a unibrow goober. His design wasn't threatening at all. Such a pity for the final BBEG. Yeah, someone said, "I think he'd look a lot cooler without the eyes or a stupid unibrow." Yeah, I agree. Yeah, this guy said, "F no, laugh mask off. This is not some mastermind beyond eons of genocide in order to carve out its idea of perfection. This is some beast it'd send out to kill you. Not even anything Rolk level either." Yeah, I agree. All right, that's a wrap. Let me know what you think about it down in the comment section below. Are you happy with the Witness's design? Or would you enjoy War Beast Witness. The eyes, yeah, the eyes, the unibrow, I guess. The eyes and the unibrow, I've kind of lumped those together. It makes sense. It's I think I like I said, I think I like the design we got just with some small changes. For the most part, the Witness's execution was fucking absolute cinema, though. Maybe Bungie's design was to get people talking to, like maybe they were trying to get some buzz about it, right? Like they want you to be outraged. They want you to tweet about it. They want you to post screenshots. They want you to critique it and say, "Oh, I could have done this better," right? Like maybe that's what they wanted you to do. Like maybe it was rage bait. That's the Witness. The final test is Bungie's rage bait. All right, so here we go. Here we go. We have some massive updates for Project Sunrise, but it's not all good right now. Let's start from the beginning. Project Sunrise is progressing very quickly. Today, someone spawned in Callus in Leviathan, which is crazy to think about, that they're actually spawning in the raid boss. Someone was able to track another player's location within the same environment on separate clients, which was pretty interesting. I imagine this is maybe inching towards the introduction of possibly multiplayer features. I don't even know if this is possible. We still don't know what is possible, really, more than anything. And someone's asked about the Destiny 1 port to PC. People are still working on that as well. We'll check up on that in a moment. Incredible things are happening. There's even discussion of custom maps being possible. Dude, could you imagine? Imagine we could make custom maps, custom areas in Destiny for like fan fiction, or maybe even custom like Crucible maps. Custom models are already possible. Today I saw someone spawn in a diamond sword from Minecraft. LOL, I'm not even kidding. Someone made us a diamond sword from Minecraft inside Destiny? Dude, this is getting incredible. Wrath has been mentioned as a possibility many months from now on multiple occasions. Dude, that's how we get it back. We, as a community, come together and we make Wrath ourselves. Incredible things are happening, and there is hope for the future of Destiny 2, and the future is very bright. The top comment says, right now the bottlenecks are unknown. There are 6,000 consecutive steps that need to happen in order to fully functional multi-mission campaigns, or God help you, full-scale raids. Dear God, 6,000 consecutive steps. They started at step 1 and are maybe now at like step 13. They've been able to update texture packs and reskin Worldline 0 into a Minecraft sword. Funny but useless. They've been able to spawn in the base model Callus as an asset. They basically just load into the world. And they've been able to figure out how to get a working inventory in which you can switch between two guns. Wow, this is crazy. We're actually making some serious progress. This is the type of project that I love to see, because there's just such a dedicated community that they're going to take it way farther than you'd expect. The only thing that sucks is the time we have to wait for, but like imagine we could fast forward time to a year from now. I bet they get it really far. Can you imagine if a year from now we are actually like kind of doing a raid together? Like we actually do Wrath of the Machine. Nobody knows what will end up being the bottleneck. For all I knew, I certainly thought switching guns required a server check. I've certainly experienced it on D2. Sometimes if you're hitting a lag spike, you can't swap inventory items. So the fact that they've gotten that working is pretty neat. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of limitations, I guess. But raid mechanics are complex, event flags and enemy spawns can be complicated, and interactables still have yet to exist. Right now, we're just in a honeymoon phase of, oh, found where the Callus asset is, and ha, I can reskin Worldline Zero into a Minecraft sword. But these are all just separated pieces that still need to actually be connected. It's incredible progress, but it's like figuring out how to go from a crawl to a sprint when you still need to climb Mount Everest. It's worth celebrating, sure, but the goal is still very, very, very far away. And we're still charting through unknown territory in what can and can't be done. After all, the community is basically reverse engineering Tiger into an offline model, LOL. Dude, what a crazy time, though. Someone said, wait, where's the post where they found out how to make a working inventory? I really want to see that. All right, so this is the post. He's got the Iclos SMG. Ooh, oh, it's loading. He has the Iclos sniper now. No way. He's got the mountaintop. He's going to swap to the Bastion. What? And it fires? Oh my god. All right, this is getting pretty crazy, guys. This is getting pretty crazy. What's this say? Blast furnace. Dude, they're swapping items. It's happening. So this person, apparently Leah, they've been working on this really hard. And wow. Dude, incredible work. Someone said, look up their GDC docs, setting up the servers. That's the bottleneck. They said, yeah, people here are really underestimating the server infrastructure and just how dynamic Destiny servers really are. The whole concept of the server maintaining a large list of transmittable events, from extremely small things like ragdoll physics to extremely important things like a boss mechanic, and then on the fly analyzing the network, deciding how many of those events it can actually transmit, and then choosing only the most important ones that will fit. That's probably the easier part of the infrastructure. I don't know how it'll happen. I don't know if it's possible, but I feel like with the advancement of some of these new technologies, and I know it's not going to work like as easily as like Control C, Control V, of course. But I can't help but feel like we could take some of these advanced technologies, some AI out there or something, right? And surely we can use that to help us in our efforts to piece together some of this Destiny stuff, right? Like, it should, in theory, be possible. Now, obviously, if the workload required is just too immense, that's where you're kind of left like, all right, well, no one's going to actually pull it off. But then if you have like an AI tool that can effectively work, the job of, however many freaking people, because it can just be given a task and then that it can go do that task and make it happen. Could you imagine? Imagine if AI recreates AI recreates Wrath of the Machine. That would be crazy. You would think that with all of the information that's available that it could learn that, if that makes sense, right? Like it could learn, like you could show it what Wrath of the Machine looks like. I don't know. I don't know enough about game development and how these servers work. So I'm truly just, armchair developer out here. But I do think it's interesting nonetheless. And it'll be fascinating to see how far it can go. And how awesome would it be if Destiny lived from the community side, right? Imagine if Destiny does have updates and like content because the community refused to let it die. That's what we need. We need like a viral phenomenon, like a movement that's never been seen before. Like a community of people that like this IP so much that they will not let it die. That's what we need. And that would be awesome. Someone said, no shade to anyone because I can hope with the best of them, but I don't think people really get that a multi-billion-dollar company only got the servers to barely work. Now, presumably, we have people and potentially even resources, but it will be a truly Herculean task. That being said, my computer skillless ass still hopes they do it someday, even if I know it won't be soon. I mean, it's hard to speak when you don't know the details, right? But you can't help but feel like, okay, so yeah, multi-billion-dollar company that's hiring all these developers that are, you know, they're supposed to be pretty talented because they're in the Bellevue area. Maybe some of them not so much, but most of them, yes. Right? They have a respectable LinkedIn and resume, and they've worked in the industry long enough that they know what they're doing. So you'd think that would be possible. Now, the part that's fascinating here is the numbers are in our advantage in some ways because you could theoretically have like 1 million people working on this. I know it's not going to be 1 million people. It's probably not even going to be 1,000 people that know what to do here, but you could, in theory, have more people working on it as a sort of community-driven project. But how this all work pieces together and what they can make of it, it'll be hard to see what the result will end up being, but I'd like to be optimistic and I'd like to signal boost this as much as possible so that way the people that are, just out there sweating right now and grinding, trying to make Wrath of the Machine happen, that they feel at least a little bit of, solidarity with the community that like, yes, go forward. We support you. We appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. This individual says, I won't claim to understand the gravity of it, but I did just see a video on Twitter where someone got the collections tab to work. No way, the collections tab now didn't have the little pop-up on the side, but it sent a gun to their inventory that wasn't there previously. Cautiously optimistic is a good way to be about it. With every foray into trying to tweak the game, they learn a little more about the system. I hope the teams at work can keep their enthusiasm long enough to see it through. Crazy. Now, like I said, it's not all good news for Project Sunrise, or at least for Destiny, that is, because a lot of people are noticing that the quality of the game in Project Sunrise looks better than Destiny 2. So, yeah, it's kind of a crazy time. Project Sunrise has shown me just how much we regressed in lighting and texture quality for the game. Look at these images. Comparing graphics using Destiny Sunrise. This is a viral post on r/Destiny 2 right now. And look at the difference. My God. This is obviously the Project Sunrise version where the Traveler is all busted up. And then this is the version that we have. Okay. See the difference? Like, I can't help but feel like Project Sunrise and the way the graphic fidelity looks is just better. And we've roasted this before because we actually went back and looked at even Destiny 1, and we genuinely believe that the lighting engine has regressed over the years. And I'm not sure what that was. They did something in 2020 to like optimize the Tiger engine for faster updates. And in the process, they lost some serious graphic fidelity. And most especially, the lighting is just scuffed, dude. What is this lighting anymore? Like some of these images, like some of them not so bad, I guess. Like, but others, like, holy crap. This video goes through it all in detail from Eva's. Destiny 2 used to look very different.
Destiny 2 used to look very different. Entire locations, lighting, and visuals changed when Beyond Light released. But what happened to the original versions is a lot stranger than you'd expect. And I'll also break down how older Destiny content was not possible for Bungie to bring back. So let's begin this video with an article from 2020 that explains why Bungie vaulted content in the first place.
Dude, throwback to June 9th, 2020. This was from Deej. You know what's really crazy is that June 9th, 2020 was the day they announced sunsetting in Destiny 2. This was the article that ushered in the worst decision in Bungie's entire 30-plus year history. And it was exactly on June 9th, 2026 that the game had its final update. Every end is a new beginning, right? The final update. Crazy the timing, right? June 9th is a cursed day for Destiny.
This will set us up to explain the reason why things were removed, why the game past Beyond Light looks so much different, and why in a court of law, Bungie didn't even have access to previous content they made. If you would just like to see the comparison of the graphics and how different things look in some areas, you can skip ahead. So we start with a Bungie.net article from 2020 written by Deej titled Building a Viable Future for Destiny 2. Over the past couple of months, we've mentioned the problems that come with maintaining a game the size of Destiny 2, and we've said that it cannot grow infinitely. After 3 years of non-stop growth, the scope and complexity of Destiny 2 has ballooned to unprecedented scale.
Yep, then that's when you launch Destiny 3, right? The idea that you would take people's paid content and throw it into a mysterious vault that would supposedly come back at any given time, but also can't come back because they basically lied. I think that was, I don't think that sunsetting would have actually been as bad. I know, like, careful now. Don't light your pitchforks and sharpen your torches just yet. I don't think that sunsetting would have been as bad if there was proper communication on how the content would rotate back into the game. I genuinely think this would have helped. Like, I'll give you an example. If they said that the Red War campaign was leaving, which is just terrible, like the new player onboarding is awful. If we don't have this, the story doesn't make sense. But if it, let's say it is leaving, let's say it comes back in 3 years, and every 3 years it stays for 3 years and then goes for 3 years. I don't know, something like that. This sort of, rotational approach that is clearly written out for us and we understand how it works would be a lot better, because then at least you know that like this thing is coming back and it gives you something to look forward to, and it being gone for so long will kind of make it fresh again in some ways. Like, I know a lot of people would enjoy going back and playing the Red War campaign right now if they could, but you can't. And so you're just left with, watching a video on it, or, I guess Project Sunrise, which is, slowly bringing it back piece by piece, room by room, right? We were able to do like the homecoming mission and a few other spots. So it is what it is, right? At this stage. But I do think that Bungie, had they properly communicated and executed a plan for creating like a carousel of content where, new thing comes in, old thing goes out, and it comes back at a certain time, I think this would have been smart. And it also could kind of fill in the gaps for low times of the year, if that makes sense. So like, imagine there's like nothing happening for maybe a month or so in the game. Well, that would be a really good time to reintroduce some like old iconic content, like the Red War campaign coming back, right? Or, maybe the Forgotten Shore or something. And I know it's not that easy to just like flip a switch and make it come back, but that's the way it should have happened, at least. And that should have been Bungie's plan from the beginning. The idea that they were going to remove paid content and then kind of lie and say it would come back, that was brutal. That was probably the hardest pill to swallow for most Destiny players.
At the time of writing, Destiny 2 featured 9 destinations, 40 story missions, 54 adventures, 42 lost sectors, 17 strikes, 31 PvP maps, 12 one-off special activities like Menagerie or 0 Hour, 7 raids, 6 Gambit arenas, 3 dungeons, Many, many quests, patrols, public events, and of course, thousands of associated rewards. All of that plus hundreds of game systems which layer on top of that content. This unrelenting growth has resulted in a game that requires players to download up to 115 gigabytes to play, as well as huge patches tied to frequent updates.
Yeah, and the Call of Duty at the time, for the same year, by the way, we did a study of this to kind of have a comparison and an analysis, right? There was a Call of Duty in 2020, I think it was Modern Warfare 4 or something. It was 185 gigabytes on consoles, by the way. And it had an update in 2020 that was like 30 some gigabytes. So the idea that the 25 gigabyte updates were too much for a 115 gigabyte game are just like, I know it's more nuanced than just size. Like, it's not just the size of the update. It also involves the amount of developmental effort required to, verify that said new exotic weapon isn't breaking everything in the game, like how Telesto broke the game like a dozen times. So I understand that there's more than just the file size, but I think that it comes down to two things, right? If you absolutely cannot continue with the file size or with the developmental effort or whatever it may be, then the only solution is a sequel game at that point. Then you have to kind of do a Destiny 3, and you got to figure out and deal with the laying the groundwork for that, because the idea that you would do a live service game that removes content just doesn't work. And unfortunately, Bungie, they're the pioneers of this, right? They're the pioneers of live service. They were on the frontier of figuring this thing out, and they created the biggest pitfall in live service space ever, like probably ever, right? I'm trying to think of anything that's worse than this in live service, upper management decision making. And I struggle to find anything that's worse, because what people hate more than anything is having ownership of a game and then they lose the ownership. We talked about this with Stop Killing Games and with, licensing deals that these companies have you sign, this like lengthy terms of service that's like 150 pages long that no one ever reads, that says, you actually don't own anything, right? People hate that more than anything. So the idea that you would do basically a light version of that, where you kind of don't remove the whole game, but you remove part of the game, is it just rubs people the wrong way, man. This angers people, and people get so passionate. Like, you saw what people did with the PlayStation disc removal thing, right? Like on social media, they're all like, fuck Sony, boycott Sony, and no disc, no buy, right? Because people want ownership, right? People want ownership. And when you buy Destiny, right? When you bought the Red War campaign, you were kind of thinking you would get to play it forever, right? It's kind of weird that you bought this thing and you can't play it anymore. It's very unusual feeling, especially for a game that still exists. You're like, oh, so the game still exists, but the thing that I bought in the game I can't play now because I got FOMO'd out of it because I didn't play it in time. Where, maybe you did play it and maybe you want to play it again, but it's like, too bad, FOMO on paid content is crazy.
And those numbers are rising rapidly, as we've been adding approximately 25 gigabytes of content each year to Destiny 2 since launch. Those sizes not only stress hard drive capacity, but also push the limits of patching capability. It also makes the time to generate a stable update for the game after all content is finalized, tested, and ready to go balloon to literally days instead of hours. Worse still, that 115 gigabytes includes a lot of content that isn't relevant anymore, and can't remain relevant as we evolve the world and introduce new experiences that will take center stage instead. For example, Warmind's campaign represents only 0.3% of playtime in Season of the Worthy, and yet the Warmind expansion accounts for 5% of our total install size.
So because people didn't play the Warmind campaign, right, and because it requires a lot of install size, therefore it should leave. And this is a logical train of thought that actually does stand up if you think about it. Like, you're like, okay, like imagine your back is against the wall and you're like, all right, we have to cut the file size of this game in some way. Like, what would we cut? Logically, cutting the thing that is the very least popular is a smart decision. Like, I can at least agree with the conclusion they came to. The issue is that it's more complex than that, right? This is paid content. This isn't something you could just choose to take away from people. And once they did get to that point where they were like, all right, well, the file size is kind of crazy, guys. Destiny 3. That should have been the only conclusion that they came to. The game stays live service, but we need Destiny 3 to happen because this game is too bloated and we need to start over fresh and we need to optimize the damn Tiger engine and we need to start Destiny 3 off day one with like 50 gigabytes. And then, we'll keep building up on the 50 gigs and da 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 multiple years from now, Destiny 4, because the file size will get too big again, right? Like, this is going to be a recurring theme if you're going to keep making new content and increasing the file size in this game. So you needed to get into that trend and that pattern and figure out how to navigate that. And it's not that would have worked foolproof, right? Destiny 2's launch was disastrous in a variety of different ways. Destiny 3's launch could have been disastrous, instead of what happened, right? We had a bunch of good years with this live service model post Beyond Light. Like, we had a lot of good raids, a lot of good campaigns. We had the Witch Queen. We had, Final Shit. We had lots of great things happen. Some bad things as well. Looking at you, Lightfall. So it's like, there were some good and some bad, but overall, that overarching issue with that sunsetting, I think, set us back more. And I think it would have been better for Bungie to kind of stick to doing the thing that is the more popular thing, even if it caused their failure. Because I think here's the thing: if Destiny 3 launched and it was a failure, at least they did the right thing. They like, hey, we had to, like, what are we gonna do? We had to. And so now they're kind of left with this idea of like, well, we felt like we had to take away your paid content, but I guess technically we could have made a sequel. It's probably a shitty feeling if you have to think about it, right? Because they've been roasted into oblivion. I mean, Deej stepped aside from the damn company shortly after all of this. I can only imagine he was hating all the heat and backlash, right? Because like he had to write that article, so they roasted him. Like, what the fuck?
Maintaining that much content in perpetuity slows down our ability to update the game with fresh experiences, reduces our ability to innovate, and delays our reaction to community feedback. Our ambition is for Destiny 2 to be the best action MMO in the world, and that means being far more agile and nimble than we are today. But the simple fact is that our game size and complexity prevents us from improving Destiny as fast as we and you would like. So their answer was the Destiny 2 Content Vault. With Destiny 1, they solved the ever-expanding, exponential complexity problem by making a sequel in Destiny 2. They say they believe that it was a mistake to create a situation that fractured the community, reset player progress, and set the player experience back in ways that took them a full year to recover and repair. It's a mistake they didn't want to repeat by making a Destiny 3. We don't believe a sequel is the right direction for the game, and for the past 2 years we have been investing all of our development efforts into new content, gameplay, and new engine features that directly support a single evolving world in Destiny 2.
Which is a pretty important point here that I think should be talked about, which is that it's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? Destiny 2 launched and you didn't get to carry over that loot that you got from Destiny 1 and some of those emblems and those things. So it feels a bit frustrating. You kind of want that sort of live service experience where you could keep playing in an ever-evolving world and your loot stays and constantly, buffed, nerfed, right? New stuff is introduced. It's OP, it's not OP, whatever it may be, right? Like, that's a fun experience where it's kind of like a single evolving world forever. And the problem with that, I guess, is the technical limitations where the game's file size just gets too bloated and too big. And I don't really know what the workaround is for that. Maybe the graphic fidelity for Destiny was just too high. And so, like, rendering these models is just too much. Like, the details are creating too big of a file size for the damn game. Not that we should downgrade down to fucking Fortnite graphics necessarily, but it kind of sucks that basically Destiny as a concept is like such an incredible concept, but then in the real world and the real practicality of making this thing, it's a nightmare, if that makes sense. It's just a nightmare because you absolutely should just have an ever-evolving world with constant updates forever and ever and ever. A really cool new player onboarding experience. The people that played the game can always feel like they can jump back in and they have all these things that they got from years ago, right? That's really fun. That style of game should exist. I do think that the best case scenario for this is to have a game like that maybe gets smaller updates, like less than 25 gigabytes, right? Like the 25 gigabytes is too much, right? So 10 gigabytes then, right? It was just too good. Someone said, yeah, Destiny was just too good of a concept, I think. And I genuinely believe, and I know people say, okay, listen, number one Destiny fanatic, 25,000 hours deranged man. I genuinely believe that 10 years from now, 20 years from now, people will look back at Destiny and they'll think, holy shit, that game was way ahead of its time. It's one of those games that the concept of it is just so far ahead of its time that I think more people in the future, when they start playing more shooter games and stuff and start looking for, games that have these elements, they're going to like conceptualize theoretical games and it's going to be Destiny. And you're gonna be like, oh yeah, that game did exist. It was Destiny. Oh, like people are like, yeah, what if we like played Call of Duty, but like there was also like, these crazy, instead of just roaming in the area, they were like, we were fighting against like enemies, but the enemies get bigger and stronger, and then our guns get bigger and stronger, and we have to like upgrade them. And then when you kill the enemies, they like drop other more powerful guns, and then we take those guns, but they can't be temporary. So we need to like create a space where we can take the guns in Call of Duty from killing the bigger, scary enemies and put them into like a storage space. And then from that storage space, we can, access it and then get more powerful loadouts and set ourselves up to, go in and face, I'm saying? It's like, you're just creating Destiny all over again, right? And it's like, you're in the grassroots stage of creating Destiny. And eventually it leads to the final formation, which is exactly what Destiny was. Like it came full circle. And like I said, 20 years from now, when game development's probably going to be easier with like crazy AI tools and like God knows what, right? Fucking Claude, fucking generating video games or something. Who knows where we're going? People will definitely come back to Destiny and be like, this was fucking genius, dude. This was, when you sit back and think about all the checklist of what Destiny is trying to do, you're like, damn, this game really did kind of have it all. But the problem with having it all is you have too much, right? You're juggling too many balls. Like they're juggling the ball of being a first-person shooter. They're juggling the ball of having PvP. They're juggling the ball of having PvE. They're juggling the ball of having an endgame and a meaningful endgame with dungeons and raids and crazy loot and exotic weapons and builds and crazy build crafting and multiple subclasses. And you're just sitting there thinking, you're like, holy shit, they're juggling fucking 45 balls. Like, how is this even possible? Like, and then the other games, they're doing all right, but they're juggling like 4 or 5 balls, and they juggle it really well. And they handle those aspects immaculately, and they're fun. They're really good shooter games out there. But Destiny was just wildly ambitious, right? It was just wildly ambitious. So there should have been 2 games. That's the point I'm getting at. There should have been the live service game, and then there should have been the box product game. The box product game gets sequels. The live service game continues on and on, so you can kind of get both flavors. People like a new entry point. They like the sequels. They like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, right? They like that. That's going to get new people in. And then the real grinders will play the live service. I think that would have been best case scenario. We should have had 2 Destiny teams, dude. What were we thinking? We had the greatest IP ever, and we put all our eggs in the one basket. There should have been a Destiny spin-off game, 1000%. I die on this hill. I don't know why we didn't do that.
Content that goes into the Destiny content vault may return in the future, altered if necessary to fit the new state of the universe. Furthermore, we consider all Destiny 1 and 2 destinations and activities part of the new Destiny content vault, and we're going to be pulling from that archive, revisiting some of the most interesting places in Destiny history. An example was the original Vault of Glass. Going forward, the goal will be to try to keep the scope and scale of Destiny 2 at a relatively consistent size in order to increase our agility and to be able to properly support and maintain the game. Over the course of each year, the game's content scope will grow as they add new destinations and activities, and as they approach the next expansion, another cycle of content will go into the content vault. So we all know how it went from here. The content vault was a thing for a while, there was some backlash, and Bungie decided to not sunset anything further, beyond some things like seasonal content. But in that initial wave on November 10th, 2020, what you see here was sent to the vault. Iotite, Mercury, and the Leviathan were thrown into the locker, Forsaken to come I think a year later. So to shorten all of that, Destiny 2 is becoming too large and technically complicated to maintain. Bungie was not making a Destiny 3, so the answer at the time was to remove older and less played content. While fans hate this, and I agree, I'd want everything, It does make some sense if you have any sense of game development. Could it have been handled another way? Sure, maybe they could have done something else or make a sequel.
But I'm telling you, man, the best case scenario is you have another team hired out. You get the green light from fucking Sony, Microsoft, anyone. You get the green light, okay? You license out the IP and you have 2 games in tandem, the live service and the box product. This is best case scenario. This is the live service has a continuous trend. The box product, maybe you can go back. Like, here's the thing. With the box product, you can do some pretty fun things that you can't do with the live service, right? Box product means that there's a hard reset. So you can let the power creep get crazy. Like, the weapons can get fucking busted. The builds can get absolutely out of control because then there's the hard reset, right? There's the sequel. The game's dead. The game's over. The next one's coming out, right? And then you can rebalance the sandbox back to ground zero. The live service, though, it has to be like kind of balanced the whole time. So you kind of have to buff the SMGs and then nerf the sidearms and then buff the shotguns or whatever it may be, right? You got to constantly, it's like adjusting little tiny, like buffing pulse rifles by 1.5% and vertical recoil by, 13%. It's like, that's the live service game, right? Very consistent and, with a sort of a carousel of change, but small and incremental. Whereas the box product's kind of the wild, more crazy, like, hey, we can go do some crazy shit too. We can go back in time, like you could make Destiny sequels, 3, 4, 5, etc. And you could go forward in time, 1,000,000 years. You can go back in time, go do the Battle of Twilight Gap, like you talked about. You can go to different universes. You can go to Tora Bottle, right? Like you can do all these other things because you can have just a more ambitious vision and it's kind of like the more exciting version. It's kind of like the more exciting, the more normie version is the box product. And then like the live service is kind of like the grinder version. Like you're fucking grinding, dude. Like you're locked in, you're min-maxing, you're a completionist, you're got 10,000 hours in the game. That's that style, I think. And I think those 2 games could really complement each other. And it could be really cool to see, but unfortunately they didn't have that vision. I could see how, 2 games could cannibalize each other's player base in some ways, but I think that they would complement each other and you could find a way to make them both be successful. We kind of did it in some ways, right? Like we did Destiny Rising. Like we decided to license out the IP to NetEase, and NetEase made just a mobile game, right? And a whole nother universe, which is kind of the right idea. It's a little bit like wrong execution for the mobile game side of things. Cause like, I mean, I don't know. I haven't really, I actually think Destiny Rising is pretty good, but I haven't really gotten as addicted to it as I did in Destiny. But had we done that, like if NetEase made like an actual console version of that, or with like proper graphic fidelity and like functionality and mechanics, dude, a console / PC version, then we'd be talking, dude. Then we would be cooking. That would be crazy. Could you imagine getting to play 2 different Destinies and kind of like getting bored of one and playing the other? And, you could take a break from both, of course, if you want, and come back and there'd just be countless missions and things to discover. Like, I don't know. I think that would be a better execution than the mobile game, but I get why they did the mobile thing, because mobile games are just like literally printing money. Like there's just an insane amount of money to make in these mobile games. So that's why they went that route. They were trying to, capitalize and cash in. And I don't know, just it clearly didn't work. No one's playing that damn game, unfortunately. Destiny Rising, RIP to Destiny Rising. That game is going to probably be done by 2027. Before then, if at this rate.
Just think about what's going on in the background. On the surface, we see a fun first-person shooter with Bungie action. But behind the scenes, I can't even imagine how much is going on between tons of animations, code, systems interacting with each other. And then, how do you categorize that into a dev environment? Let's say a new developer is hired. How do they understand how Destiny works, where all the guns are stored in their folders? How the systems and tools of their engine works, how all of it is organized. I've messed with Unity and just trying to manage 10 objects with different values like floats, ints, it confuses me real quick. So thousands of objects, I can't even imagine. And on top of that, testing things. I make a few weapons in a first-person prototype and things go crazy right away. There's all types of bugs I have to try and decipher. Destiny has that times 100, maybe even 1,000. Now, we all wanted everything unvaulted, and I'm sure maybe there was some type of other way. I don't know what that answer would be. But this did have massive effects on the future of the franchise. Next to the content being removed, the game received some massive engine changes as talked about in that article for Beyond Light and onwards. This did things behind the scenes, but the biggest change visually was the lighting. Around that time, Bungie
Dude, the lighting engine got so cooked after 2020. Oh my god. Just wait till you see these images. My god. Yeah, I think he has a good comparison here.
Said this. During the early stages of Beyond Light production, the Lighting and Skies teams had a desire to provide a visual refresh to the two remaining Destiny 2 Year 1 destinations, the EDZ and Nessus. To that end, the teams performed relights and global lighting updates to a number of locations on both destinations. They said the changes are intentional and are meant to bring the visual quality of these spaces up to the current lighting standards, while also providing a fresh coat of paint for some Year 1 locations. So going by that text, specifically for the lighting at least, unless somebody commented on it further somewhere else, it seems Bungie didn't need to change the lighting, it just kind of brought things up to their standard, changes with the engine and some tweaks that the designers made back then. Destiny 2 looks beautiful in general, but you can notice a big difference in some areas of older builds. Those areas to me look more vibrant and saturated compared to some of the muted colors and lighting we see in current day Destiny 2. I'll show you a bunch of comparisons. I tried to match the time of day best I could for the main patrol areas. Sometimes it's hard to tell, other times the changes are blatantly obvious.
So, someone said it in the chat, you know what? I'm reading it in the voice.
You think you have all these great ideas, Lucky. However, you never have an idea of how to pay for it. Isn't it fun thinking you know best how to spend other people's money?
Anthony, listen, we're not talking about the budgets for these things. We're talking about the decisions that were made. It's whether they have the budget or not Bungie's got a pretty sizable budget, right? Like they made $3.6 billion selling this thing to Sony. So to pretend that they could not make the decision for a Destiny 3 is pretty silly. They literally made another game. They made Marathon. They spent $250 million of Sony's money, I guess, on that project. Just think about that. So the idea that they would not be able to fund a Destiny 3 is absurd. If you took all that 250, that at least, let's say Destiny 3 is a $500 million project, which is a pretty fair estimation. That's at least you're at least halfway done with it, right? With Marathon's budget, not to mention, the excitement, the potential draw in for new players. I'm not saying it's a foolproof plan making a Destiny 3, but it clearly would be a better plan than sunsetting. And I think that we should all agree with that. Even if we aren't, Bungie's financial advisors necessarily, or if we don't know the financial spreadsheet, I think it's okay to criticize and to have a fair discussion. Right. And we don't know the budget though, but I still think it's a worthy point of discussion. Ugh! What the hell? This was beautiful! Look what they took from us! Oh, hell no. That's an actual crime. That's a crime against the Traveler right there. What the fuck did I just see? Bro, they replaced the Traveler with like the broken shards and like the three-dimensional physics of like shrapnel circulating around his orbit with just like a PNG of the Traveler. This is fucking funny to me, dude. I think the craziest part is that it's so noticeably worse. Like, it's one thing if you're like, hey, you know, it's different. Hey, you know, different strokes for different folks type of vibe. But when it's like almost objectively worse, you're like, damn, what happened here? You know, what were we thinking here? Someone said, hey, just so you know, it's Clyde's birthday. You should bring everyone over. He's right. Dude, definitely say happy birthday to Clyde. That guy's getting really old. You should definitely say happy birthday because he might not have too many birthdays left. I mean, this guy is ancient. So do your best. Yeah, definitely happy birthday. Shout out Clyde for sure. Someone said, I read the content in Project Sunrise was explore only, no actual gameplay. Currently, it is you're just roaming around environments. You can shoot your guns. You can, I guess, now swap some of your guns. You can pop your super. There's no enemies, but people did get Callus to spawn in. And you can do like weird modded stuff, I guess, now. Like you can turn your World Line Zero into a Minecraft diamond sword, which is kind of funny. Running around in Destiny 2 with a Minecraft sword. So there's definitely some serious limitations with Project Sunrise. It's not, you know, the Sunset content one-to-one brought back, right? So make sure to understand that distinction. But it is still an incredible project, and they're continuing to build off of this, you know, initial first push, which is, like we said, just environments. You know, you can just like roam around old missions and they're empty and hollow for now. And maybe in the future, they'll be able to figure out how to piece some stuff together. But it's also important to maybe manage your expectations to some degree because, you know, this is a community driven thing. There's no funding for this, right? So whoever's running it or doing it, you know, it's just some random Andy in his, you know, mom's basement, not some big, you know, multi-million-dollar project funded by Sony or God knows who. Now let's continue our roast of the Destiny 2 lighting engine from before Beyond Light until now. Not too much of a change in that one. I actually think current day looked better on that one. I think that was an improvement. This is where there will be some subjectivity. Some of the lighting does improve in certain areas. So it's hard to say exactly what's the better lighting. Like, again, we're on Dreaming City. I think this looks better. Like, this is current day. I think that looks better. There's a little bit more like distinctness of, I mean, it kind of depends on the time of day too. So, you know, even if you do stand in the exact same spot, I think there is some sort of like daily cycle to like the lighting. And I can imagine that, you know, maybe it's not the most fair comparison always, but sometimes it's, you know, pretty close and you can see. Someone asked, what is this? So this is a comparison of Destiny 2 today, right? So it's one image will be Destiny 2 today standing in a spot compared to Project Sunrise, which is a recent rejuvenation project where you're able to access the Destiny 2 Sunset content, the stuff that was there before Beyond Light, and not just the Sunset content, but just everything that existed, I think like in Shadowkeep. And it's not a part of the live game. It's something completely separate. And so now what people are doing is they're standing in the exact same spot in the current game in 2026, and then they're standing in the exact same spot in Project Sunrise, and then recording a clip to compare the, you know, visual differences, which, you know, there's some, you know, graphic fidelity issues here and there, but for the most part, it's mostly about the lighting. Oh, let's see what we got here.
2024 by science fiction writer Matthew Kelsey Martineau. He alleged that Bungie copied elements of stories he'd published online in 2013 and 14 when creating Destiny 2's Red War and Red Legion storyline. This was a part of the content removed in the vaulting. Now I'm shortening this and paraphrasing some things from articles, but Bungie basically said, we have the code for the Red War, but we can't run it. Bungie archived the original code that comprised the Red War and Curse of Osiris campaigns known as Legacy Builds, game director Tyson Green's declaration read. However, the Red War and Curse of Osiris Legacy Builds can no longer run because their outdated code is incompatible with Destiny 2's underlying operational framework, which has evolved considerably since the Red War and Curse of Osiris' campaigns were retired. As a result, Bungie cannot feasibly provide the court with the original Destiny 2 game as it existed in 2017, including those campaigns in any operable or reviewable form. Nor will Bungie be able to produce the accused campaigns in operable or reviewable form if this matter proceeds to formal discovery. So Bungie had the builds, they just didn't maintain a functional, historical Destiny 2 environment that was capable of running them. As the story goes, Bungie tried to use YouTube videos and wiki links in this case, but that sort of backfired as
they had to go out there and pull up the Lucky 10p video. Yo, what is up? It's your boy 10p here, bringing you another Red War campaign completion. Imagine the video in the court case. Imagine the judge clicking on the video and watching, listening to, smash that like button for clearing the Red War campaign. In this like very official courtroom setting. So funny to me. I would love to be a fly on the wall and see what that was like. That had to have been hilarious. Listening to that, we're experiencing that. YouTubers and YouTube content being used as the only defense that Bungie had for them not stealing the Red War campaign and its core concepts. Wow. What a time to be alive.
Judge said this didn't properly authenticate anything on Bungie's end. It wasn't the original game. There were some other things in the middle there, but the case was eventually dismissed. I bring all of this up because I see a lot of people say, now that the Sunrise is a thing, that Bungie straight up lied. The content from the Red War and content from the Vault is literally right here. Why couldn't they bring it back?
This is the old code is really the issue here. It still is there, yes, but it's the old code. So they can't just, put that into the new code. Like, it's just not going to work like that. So it's partly an issue of just people maybe not understanding the technical complexity. It still is annoying that it's like right there and you're like looking at it and like you guys couldn't like figure it out, like how to, you know, not necessarily port it over, but like remake these assets with the new code. You couldn't figure, like, it's all there. You couldn't, you know, lock in and get this done. So it's still a point of contention for the Destiny players toward Bungie. And that will forever exist regardless of even these discoveries, like just the paid content being taken away is a big problem. But yeah, even though we can access Project Sunrise and access this older build on the old code, this doesn't mean that like the Red War campaign is kind of just sitting there. Because if it was, they would have used it in court. Clearly, they weren't trying to get sued for millions of dollars for stealing the damn Red War campaign and say, like, oh, yeah, we can't access it. But like, oh, actually, we can. You know, like, obviously, if they could, they would have absolutely presented effectively whatever this is, this Shadowkeep build, they would have presented this to the court. But they couldn't. They weren't able to do so because it's the old code and it's like falling apart. It's not on the live game and everything. It's just, I think it's important to understand that. Like, still, Bungie still gets roasted. Don't get me wrong, but you know, it's important to roast them in ways that are maybe accurate and fair to the situation.
From all of this information we have gathered, Bungie was not lying.
Someone said, did they win or lose this case? The case was dropped. We don't know any more than that. Unfortunately, in the legal cases, right, you don't necessarily know, oh, who did this, that, right? Like, it's kind of just, when the cases are dropped, it's very ominous and you're kind of left like wondering, but probably nothing happened. Because I don't think Kelsey Martineau had a good claim in the first place, if I had to guess. But that's just me with my spinfoil hat giving you my ideas based on reading everything about this from day one and playing this game an ungodly amount. He probably won nothing. He probably just wasted. He probably burned a fucking literal boatload of money on legal fees. Like, he probably literally lit on fire $100,000 in legal fees. So I guess that's what he gets.
And some fans just don't understand the full picture. If you watched most of this video, you heard me explain why Bungie removed stuff from that 2020 article. And if you followed Sunrise or tried it, you know that yes, the build is there, but nothing works. Everything tied to missions, enemies, quest, gear, anything like that was tied to Bungie servers at all just doesn't work. Now, Sunrise is an offline build, but it's probably not too much to assume that Bungie's situation is similar with the old builds. If they didn't maintain the backend from those days to run things, they likely don't work either. Now, recently, community members that downloaded Project Sunrise have actually made some progress in getting
There's 100 calluses in the gauntlet. What is happening right now?
certain items to work, like pulling items from your collections or spawning callus on the Leviathan. So the stuff is there in the build like Sunrise. Enemies, mechanics, in theory, it just needs to be put back together. Some people are—
This community is absolutely undefeated. This is the greatest gaming community that ever existed. I die on this hill. We are so funny. This is, whoever did this is the funniest person. Like, what? What? We're just spawning calluses everywhere in Leviathan now? There's so many of them. Look at how many there are.
already beginning that. And while that all is super cool and is a little bit of progress, it's nowhere near compared to the massive giant Destiny 2 is. You heard me mention all those destinations, thousands of weapons. If this was the case for Bungie in that lawsuit and they didn't have anything working, they would have to rebuild all of that from scratch. But anyway, Guardians, that's all we got for today's video. A look back at Destiny 2's vaulted content and some of the biggest changes like the lighting and graphical changes before Beyond Light. If you'd like to see some more Destiny news, lore, and mysteries just like this video, please be sure to subscribe to the channel.
All right, there it is. That's the breakdown from Evase. And basically just comparing the lighting engines. Great video from him. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. See you in the next one. All right. Good stuff. Good stuff, chat. Bungie did say anything about Sunrise. Not directly, not the official Bungie accounts, but the ex Bungie game director has mentioned it. Maybe like sunsetting a little bit. We'll get more news about it from them pretty soon, I imagine. I imagine there will be something. Let's do this. Excelente. They'll probably put a cease and desist. Dude, if they put a cease and desist on Project Sunrise, people would lose their minds. It's literally just the content that you paid for, so I don't think that they would do that. But if they did, people would absolutely, there would be hell. I don't think that would happen, but you never know, I guess. I feel like since Destiny's like dead as well, and there's no like Destiny 3, like right now, getting to play Sunrise and like kind of keeping the spirit of Destiny alive is smart. Like Bungie strategically should be enjoying this if they are working on a Destiny incubation project, right? Like it would be to their favor to keep Destiny interest and the player base alive and healthy as long as they can until they can at least announce their new project, whatever the hell it is, if they even do get the green light, right? All right. On to the next thing. This is kind of crazy. I found this to be pretty fascinating. The Black Garden was going to be a patrol destination? Excuse me? All right, give me 1 second. I'll be right back. We're going to talk about this. This was the first one I ever played. Alrighty. We're back. All right, here we go. Here we go. Oh, I missed a bunch of alerts. No, done. And Bob Cross. Oh, I'm sorry. Done. Bob Cross. I missed the alerts. Thank you for the tier 1 48 months and Bob Cross with 3 months. I think I was in the middle of recording that video, but I appreciate you guys. Legends. Thank you. Thank you. W's in the chat for Dunn and Bob Cross. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Much appreciated. All right, here we go. Here we go. It's time. It's time. This is absolutely wild. The Black Garden was going to be a patrol destination. And with Project Sunrise, we can actually view the remnants of it in game now. Dude, what a crazy timeline it would have been if the Black Garden was a patrol destination. Wonder why they went the route they did. Would have been kind of cool. Remember in Vault of Glass in Destiny 1, where it was like a patrol, like you're patrolling around and then you like drive past it on your Sparrow and you look over and you're like, what are those guys doing? Like 6 people running around fighting the Minotaurs, trying to raise that spire. And so you jump in and help them. That was really cool. I always liked that so much. I thought that made such an interesting like collaboration and it like created an interesting connection between the beginning of Destiny and the end game. Like as you were just getting started playing Destiny, you could interact with the end game, which was the raid. And I really liked that bridge and I liked that connection. It would have been cool if they had done this similarly with like, I guess this would have been Black Garden and like Garden of Salvation, I'm assuming then. Am I understanding this correctly? Like this looks like Garden of Salvation. That would have been cool. I wish we had gotten more. I wish every raid was like that, if that makes sense. Like every raid should be on a planet where you patrol by and you can like help the team get through the door. Just because that's just funny and just creates cool content. And it also like, it gives people that aspirational bit. Like the first time I ever saw Vault of Glass, I think was because of that. Like I wasn't raiding on day 1 at that stage in time. I was a filthy casual. And so I like saw people and I was like, whoa, what's that all about? And like, oh, that's the raid. And I was like, oh, maybe I should do that. Well, do you have Galhorn, buddy? No? All right, well, that is a no from you then. I guess you're just throwing solar grenades at the Templar's feet. What do you think about this stuff? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. All right. I was hoping all of this was going to be in game. Dude, that would be awesome if it was in game. That would be incredible. That would be beyond peak. Unfortunately, this is all completely separate from Bungie servers. I got some nice crispy chicken I'm eating here, chat. Paul Tassi is now writing articles. What do you say here? Worst thing about Destiny dying is that Paul has to write stuff like this forever. We got a Paw Patrol review now? Oh, no. From From Destiny articles to Paw Patrol now. This is an incredible transition. One that is very unexpected. Paul likes to review movies, though, so I imagine he just saw the movie with his kid and was like, fuck it, let's write an article on this. This will hit the search algorithm. Falling on hard times, yeah. Nah, I'm sure. All of the Destiny fan base are trying to figure out what they're going to do next. You got those chicken tendies. Are they buffalo tendies? They're not buffalo tendies. They're just regular basic ass chicken tendies. They're like chicken strips from Walmart. Great value ones. Someone said Paw Patrol. Oh my god, dude. Paw Patrol. That's incredible. From now on, every video I ever watch of Paul Tassie's, we will reference him as Paw Patrol Tassie. Incredible. Paw Patrol. To be fair, the kids love Paw Patrol. The kids go crazy for Paw Patrol. That's the shit. When they're 4 years old right now, this is your life. Paw Patrol. Oh, God. Not the charts. God damn it. I forgot I opened this tab. Good Lord, Marathon. 1,200 people. Just gave you a new tweet from Chris talking about D2 slot. Oh. Very nice. Let's pull this up. Christopher Barrett. This guy's always starting trouble. Oh, he's chirping about all kinds of things, dude. This guy's going crazy on Twitter. We're in a new era now where all the Bungie devs don't, like, they all just made a bunch of money, so they're just like, fuck it, I'm just going to retire and talk shit on Twitter now. This is incredible. I love this. Chris says, I remember the person in charge of D2, probably Luke Smith, telling me once that creating flavor of the month enemies every expansion you needed to defeat was slop, and we should create meaningful human stories like the MCU. I was like, this is a shooty video game. I think creating cool giant evil bosses every season filled with new loot is exactly what players want. Damn. Drama, dude. This is insane. No shot. He just tweeted that. I do think that's an important point, that it is a shooty game. Meaningful human stories like the MCU. That's the push-pull with Destiny in some ways, though. So, normally in shooter games, they're very, like, meathead-oriented. Like, run and gun, spawn in, shoot, kill streak, teabag, talk shit in the COD lobby, right? That's like the normal shooter game MO. Destiny tried to be like a cultured shooter game, if you think about it, right? Like, I don't think there's another My Name is Bife for Call of Duty. Not that I know of, maybe. Like, I don't think there's like culture like that, lore and story that people talk about and care about and listen to. Those games are just all shooty games, as Christopher Barrett's saying it. But Destiny was kind of trying to be like maybe a hybrid or different, where it's like, yeah, it's a shooty game, but we also have lore. We also have PvE. We also have raids. We also have, Gambit and fashion and stuff. Half the missions the past couple years seemed convoluted in storytelling as they were trying to make everything a mystery, but with no explanation. Dude. All my chicken just fell on the ground. Rip. Oh, man. Surely it's okay, right? Now I'm eating carpet chicken, dude. This is what I'm reduced to. Fucking carpet chicken. Carpet chicken's still a better narrative than Lifefall, though. That's for sure. All right, that's enough of that. This one is going to do numbers, dude. This one's going to hit like 5,000 likes. Oh, shit. He's calling him out big time. Dude, he was working on a D3. He said it would have been cool as fuck. Excuse me? Jesus H. Christ. This is code red right now. This is code red. This is huge news right now. Dear God. An ex-Bungie game director has just started an all-out war on social media. He dropped this bombshell right here, and this has everyone talking right now. And this hasn't even been out for an hour yet. It's already almost got 1,000 likes. This one's going to do numbers. So what did he say that's got everyone chirping? He said, I remember the person in charge of D2, which is probably Luke Smith, telling me once that creating, quote, flavor of the month enemies every expansion you needed to defeat was slop. And we should create meaningful human stories like the MCU. So focus on storytelling and narrative, and clearly that's the direction that they went, versus having new enemies to fight, right? This is something that's been a really common gripe for Destiny 2 players, which is that, a lot of times we're just shooting the same enemies, right? And, clearly the two could go together in some ways, but the vision was more for the human stories, so it'd be more relatable. But boy, is everyone angry about this. Someone said it could have been Jason Jones. I guess it could have been Jason Jones more than anyone. They then go on to say, I was like, this is a shooty game. I think creating cool, giant, evil bosses every season filled with new loot is exactly what players want. So the replies are going off like crazy. People are saying, what? This was actually a conversation? We're finally getting to peek behind the curtain and see what it was like for Bungie and their, thought processes that went into how they took the vision of Destiny 2 forward, what things they gave the green light to, and what things they turned away. And this is one that definitely is going to anger a lot of people, because we always wanted more enemies to fight against. More enemies is definitely better, and it taps into that shooty video game element that we're talking about here. But I do think there's an important distinction here, which is that shooter games in general, right? Like Call of Duty, it's a great example, probably one of the most infamous examples. That game is kind of a meathead game, right? I don't know that there's like a big lore guy in that. Like in our game, we've got My Name is Bife, right? People of culture, right? So you kind of blending the shooty game with culture and like story, and that does create an interesting amalgamation. And I think that creates kind of its own unique audience where, yes, you are playing a shooter game, a first-person shooter game, which is a genre that's a little more unhinged, a little more, people who are rough around the edges play these types of games, blended with, the culture, which is reading the lore and exploring different ideas of, perhaps, moral or ethical quandaries, or, what does future alien space, opera look like, right? Very Star Wars-esque. And Destiny has done a really good job of blending these two together and creating a unique product that you really just do not find in any other game, especially when you're talking about first person specifically. So I don't necessarily think it's wrong to have those stories in the game. Like, obviously, if you were to just outright remove them, people would be pretty unhappy. And maybe we're talking more about the seasonal content, which is good and bad at times, but I think it's an interesting debate, and I want to see what people are saying here. Someone said, don't tell me this, LOL. One of my main gripes was that the game needed enemy variety more than anything. The shooting was so good. I just got tired of shooting the same thing over and over. If the AI and enemy type was more varied, I could have gone on indefinitely. And Christopher Barrett says, yeah. The next comment reads, just here to say that I wish you were left in charge of Destiny, dude. A travesty of how Bungie managed their people/games. And he says, I really tried my best, was all political, and individuals cared more about that than the players. Wow, that's actually a crazy roast. Oh my God. Oh, dear Lord. He is not holding back today. Warlord Shack says, how is it that the people with the worst ideas always end up in charge of things? To which Christopher Barrett responds with the melting emoji. This guy says, what were they doing with this game, bro? Crazy meme here. And he says, me? And this is probably the most interesting comment of all, which is Mustafa says, can you talk about your vision for the Destiny 2 sequel /D3 that you worked on for 6 months before moving to Marathon. And he said it would have been cool as fuck. I'm like, wait, what? What are we talking about here? There was a Destiny 2 sequel and a D3 that was being worked on. I don't think this is Project Payback. That was meant to be Mark Noseworthy and Luke Smith. So this is almost like at least something that I have not heard of. And I have clearly covered the news of everything. So unless this is Project Payback, then I'm not sure. But wow, this is crazy. I really want to see more and hear more about this. I would fall over and die if he actually gave us details about this. You once elaborated one of your original visions for Marathon. Can you give us even a little of what your vision was for the Destiny sequel? So here it is. He actually responds. He said, make new stuff to explore and monsters to fight with a focus on replayability. There it is. Wow. Now, let's be real. This is very simple. This is not a whole lot to go on. But in terms of the gameplay loop, right? New things to explore, constantly fighting monsters. You know that the Bungie shooting is always going to be to the very highest pedigree, where you've got, even Marathon's gunplay is really, really clean and has that very visceral Bungie feel. So yeah, shooting more things, shooting more monsters, exploring more stuff, and creating and ingraining a really high degree of replayability that doesn't feel chore-like is exactly the direction I would love to see a Destiny sequel or even a Destiny spin-off or Destiny adjacent game go. Then he goes on to say, he says, why do you think the decision was to cancel it? And was it repurposed eventually into D2 or was it completely thrown away? And we got no response yet. If we do get a response, we'll bring you a follow-up video, so make sure you're subscribed. John Fisher here says, is it wrong to want a mix of both? Or does the synergy get very complicated then? Which I think is a fair question. It says, one only matters if the first exists. All right, I like this. All right, I like this. This is interesting. So, one only matters if the first exists. So yeah, like the stories don't matter if you're not constantly fighting new evil bosses and new enemies and exploring new areas. Like that does need to be the biggest key element here, and the stories can match that. And I feel like storytelling in video games is a little bit, I don't know how to describe it. It's like played out, if that makes sense. And feel free to roast me if you're like, dude, the stories in video games are awesome. Shut up. Fine. But the reason why I think they're a little bit played out in some ways is that the games are structured in a particular like linear way where, this story is meant to happen, that story is meant to happen. Your character can't just like full on die, right? Like there's certain people that can't die. And in storytelling, I think that, plot twists are some of the most interesting bits. And so, like your guardian can't die, right? There's certain things that can't happen, I guess. And the live service game kind of forces the story like a treadmill to keep going forward. You have to keep going forward and keep building, building, building. And I think that that's counterproductive to creativity. It's very productive to, capitalism and selling video games and like, making the product, have new things and new reasons to purchase. So it's obviously ingrained in the product and creating a consumer product, but I do think it's counterproductive to the creative process. And I think that's why a lot of video games really struggle with their storytelling is because they're on a treadmill. It's kind of like, even if you took like the world's best writer and you poked and prodded them and you said, write a good story. Now write another one. Now write another one. And it's like, eventually that probably gets shitty, right? Like if you had to every year churn through and write a new Harry Potter book, like by the 25th Harry Potter book, it would be like, all right, like, come on, like, what are we doing anymore? Like it probably gets a little old, right? But to be fair, I liked Harry Potter enough that I probably would watch the 25th fucking movie, but we don't know what that would be like. I imagine eventually it could get a little played out. this individual says, "What you think of Project Sunrise?" Ooh, he says, "Seems cool to me as a passive observer." Interesting. He's just talking about everything. He's basically just doing an AMA out here. He said, "Please make D1 remake or a Destiny 3." He said, "I wish." Christopher Barrett has just, after his lawsuit was finished, he's like, you know what? Fuck it. I'll do what I want. He's got his own game studio now. He's rebranded it to Dead Pixel Crew. Apparently, he's going to be making his own game. This is a crazy time right now. I want to see what happens. Like when the witness died, the echoes left, right? And they started a bunch of trouble. It's kind of like Bungie is dying, right? And now all these game directors and all these, CEOs and creative directors, they're all leaving and they're starting the echoes once again. And they're going to start all this trouble. I want to see what they cook up here. Someone asked him, how different is Marathon today from the version we currently have? And do you play the game? Christopher Barrett, the original game director for Marathon, says, I have never played it. He never played Marathon. Wow. Now that's crazy. Holy. Someone quote tweeted him and said, consider me shocked that people at Bungie campaigned against meaningful human stories. So trying to roast Christopher Barrett here. And Christopher Barrett responds, saying it's a video game. The most important thing, especially in the context of the game, is new things to shoot and new loot to collect. Not against meaningful human stories, but also you need the talent to pull that off, who also understands the critical goals. Dude, I don't shut up and take my money. Like, this is exactly what I wish we had heard from Bungie in the first place, is this vision right here. This is kind of what I felt like I was screaming into the void for so many years. And it's crazy that there was people at Bungie that had a similar idea, right? Like Destiny at its core needs to be a consumer product, right? It needs to solve a problem, the problem of boredom, the problem of, nothing fun or exciting or interesting online to do. So you go into this world, you go into this game, and it gives you these experiences. It gives you a thing. It gives you a community. It gives you meaning. It gives you something, right? It's got to have all these things, right? But that's the problem that solves. And it's mostly, that's the biggest element and the hardest element to navigate is getting people interested more so than anything. The story, the lore, all those other things, even some of the quality of life updates, which are important, but those things come second to this, right? Like Destiny at its very core needs to be a wildly successful consumer product. It needs to be a game that's like when people try this fucking thing, they're like, shit, I got to play this more, like it needs to have that. And then they get addicted and they can't get enough of it. And it's got to like grow and grow and grow. The more people that play it, the more people that see it want to play it more. And obviously, it's going to have some limitations. Every game has its sort of ceiling, right? Like everyone here watching this has probably seen League of Legends, but most of you don't play it, right? Or you've seen CSGO, but you don't play it. The games are still wildly popular, though. So what's wrong, right? Nothing wrong. It's just not your flavor. That's what Destiny needed more than anything, though, especially to satiate its crazy budget that they have. Clearly, they're spending so much goddamn money paying all these devs in Bellevue, Washington. They need to have a product that's just, it's got to have that like wildfire that's consistently growing and, kind of crushing it. And I do think that that vision is much closer in line with this than the storytelling. It's and he also has a comment on this as well, which is that Insomniac's communications director James Stevenson has spoken about the huge amount of negativity surrounding Marvel's Wolverine on X. He says the constant criticism and attacks have been an onslaught on developers' mental health. Stevenson is even considering telling Insomniac employees to stay away from X because of it. Fans are comparing it to PS2 games and calling it a movie game designed for journalists. Oh, man, that's crazy. What I think is the best approach to this is you should have the, I don't know how to describe it, the cognitive complexity to handle this sort of online criticism and still make the game. Like, you still make the product that you're looking for. Like, I'll give you a great example. I record countless videos every day. I stream. We talk about stuff all the time. And people in the comment section say things like, "Oh, that was a dumb idea, Lucky," or "You're stupid," or "You don't know anything about this thing," right? All the time people say that in the comment section, and that's fine. More people are more than welcome to say whatever they want. Um, I read those things and I try to sift through some, meaningful criticism in it. But yeah, if it's just like you're ugly and stupid, it's like, all right, sure, whatever. I just laugh most of the time though. Like, maybe it's not supposed to put me in a good mood. Maybe it's meant to like drag me down or something. But like, I just find it really silly that I'm going to sit and yap about a video game topic for like 45 minutes. And your takeaway after watching this is you're ugly and stupid. I'm like, really? Like, you just like, what? That's the that's the comment you wanted to write? Like, that makes me laugh. So that's the way I would take this criticism as well. I would keep plugging away at the game. I don't have an issue with that. What does Christopher Barrett say, right? This guy worked at Bungie 30 years. This guy made countless, Halo IPs and Destiny IP, right? So just because you work hard on something doesn't make it magically immune to criticism. There are no participation trophies. It's a subjective medium. Critique is part of the equation. If you don't like it, you might not want to be in a creative industry. Damn. This guy is not taking a light on him. I agree, though. This is a very valid perspective of how to handle this criticism. I think that you should embrace it as much as possible. Like, I think that the criticism, you should be thankful that people want to talk about the things that you create, because there's plenty of people that make things and it's like it goes directly into the void and there's no criticism, there's no comments, there's no critique or anything. And if you've ever made a video, like if you're new to YouTube, or ever recorded a TikTok, what that feeling is like. You record something like, "Hey guys, I'm here to show you my freaking, I don't know, whatever, something in Destiny 2 maybe, or maybe you got a new controller," and no one comments on it, no one watches it. And you're like, damn, you've got you got no feedback, you've got nothing to learn from it. So I embrace all comments, even if your comment is "Lucky, you're ugly." All right, you know what? Fine. This guy replied saying, "You can really tell between the ones that learned their craft from antisocial platforms like YouTube versus the creatives that took hit after hit on the proverbial chin in real life, ironing out their ego from brutal critique sessions from their peers, an absolute necessity in creative work." And he says, literally anyone who has made art or went to art school or who has done anything creative in the public arena has to develop a thick skin. Absolutely. Yes, to create is basically to invite criticism. Like, the two go hand in hand. If you're going to create something on this sort of public platform, the internet, then you better believe the replies are going to come in and they're going to hound you in every way, shape, or form. Good, bad, ugly, you never know. But a lot of chatter from Christopher Barrett recently. Like I said, if we get any more updates about his Destiny 2 or Destiny 3 project, we'll bring you a video, because that's crazy to me. I would love to hear that, what more about that. But let me know what you think about it down in the comments. Someone said, did you cover Laura Fryer video about feedback among devs before it ever is problem in the public? No. Laura Fryer is talking about something. She's always got some good insight. All right, I gotta go to the bathroom. I'll be right back, chat. BRB, we got more stuff to cover. We're just getting started. I'm back. My God. All right, beautiful people, it's time. We got more news to cover. You thought we were done? Think again. We're just getting started. We're just getting started. What am I even watching anymore? I want to go into the freaking Project Sunrise. I want to spawn in some calluses. How do I do that? Why can't everyone else gets to have the fun? All right, we're on to the next news story, chat. Are you ready? Destiny 2 game director talks D2 sequel, vaulting mistake, new secrets, easier GMs, and what? This is crazy. Easier GMs? Did I read that right? Hold up. Destiny 2 game director talks Destiny 2 sequel. We're talking Destiny 3 now. Vaulting mistake, new secrets, and easier GMs and updates. It's time to cook. Let's see what Houndish is doing over here.
What's up guys, Houndish here. Today, we are jumping in with a few Destiny 2 updates and plenty of discussion. With all the Project Sunrise stuff going on over the last couple of weeks, lots of people are chiming in with discoveries and opinions. A former game director for Destiny 2 actually speaks about the content vault and acknowledges that it was less than ideal as a development solution for D2. Plus we get some insights about D3, which of course never happened, but there was some interesting internal goings on around that. So we'll speak about it. Additionally, we have some community tips, warnings that Bungie are still very much moderating D2 in terms of managing cheaters. Players highlight you can further customize Grandmaster Vanguard alerts for easier loot, and we have a few other things to talk about. Now, we all love video games, and some of us love collectibles and the memorabilia that goes along with them. That includes myself. As some of you guys know, I have a big collection of Rockstar Games items, which goes back nearly 20 years. Unfortunately, our sponsor today can help us in this department because we're talking about Whatnot. Whatnot's the #1 live streaming shopping app where you'll find live auctions featuring sellers who stock video games, toys, sports memorabilia, hobbies, and much more. And it's basically a streaming site that meets an auction platform. And because of its social nature, you'll find communities of enthusiasts who share your interests. So looking at video games, there's retro games, related collectibles, but you find a whole bunch of other categories like trading cards, fashion, anime, comics, sneakers, you name it. There's a whole bunch of stuff. There's a stream right here selling Funko Pops that I kind of want to take a look at. This one could potentially be pretty good. I've got a friend who really loves horror movies. So let's see if we can get
Funko
Regan
Pops
from The Exorcist. Maybe we can tactically bid here in the last couple of seconds. That's currently on £8, and boom, we got it for like $10 or $11, which is pretty good. I was surprised to learn you can also buy candy on Whatnot. I just won some rhubarb and custard sweets for just £6. And yeah, they're very British. But again, this is just one category. You'll find a whole bunch of your interests on Whatnot, and even...
Isn't this stuff just on TikTok? Is this like a variant of TikTok? A competitor?
Better, if you use my link or scan the QR code on screen, you'll get $15 off your first purchase in the app. So my Funko Pop there would have basically been free, which is a pretty sweet deal. So, what are you waiting for? Hit the links down below, find some awesome deals on Whatnot, and let us know in the comments any awesome things that you managed to pick up on the site. All of the details are down below, and thanks to Whatnot for sponsoring the video. Getting into the Destiny discussion here, and initially Destiny Bulletin pointed out, 15 years ago this last week, Bungie released its 20th anniversary Vidoc.
Is that Jason Jones' feet? What are we? Dude, these guys were different back in the day. You just have Jason Jones showing his feet in a video? This is crazy, dude. What a time to be alive. The old Bungie was absolutely goated. I wish they stayed that way.
Brave New World. Of course, it looked back at the studio's history and ahead to its future, ending with the logo for the next game, Destiny. They highlight as well, 15 years later, D2 received its final live service update in June. And it's crazy to think just how much Bungie have changed since those days. On the subject of the inner workings of Bungie, especially with this Project Sunrise going on, players going into old versions of D2 content, Chris Barrett gave his thoughts on content vaulting. Of course, Chris Barrett previously was a game director for Destiny 2, Bungie's Marathon, and a handful of other projects, expansions, and was really a key figure in terms of game direction for Bungie. And he says there are a few legitimate reasons this exists. One is hard drive space on consoles. All the content just won't fit on core systems. Another is base install size for new players. And the last...
We talked about this previously where, you know, this is true for Destiny, and obviously there's a lot of complexity in this, but it is a bit obnoxious that there was a Call of Duty, like Modern Warfare 4 at the time, that had like 185 gigabytes, like basically like almost double the size of Destiny, and didn't have a problem. So I get it though, you know, probably not making as much money as Call of Duty, let's be real. So gotta manage things a little bit better.
This development burden of testing all content when things are added, such as new weapons, abilities, and features. I agree that these reasons aren't acceptable for players. A potential solution would be that on console, content is removed and re-downloaded as players choose specific content, or to rotate content that is available seasonally. The on-the-fly solution still has a poor user experience that you can't match players who have different content downloaded, even on PC due to crossplay, or you have the need to wait long times while content downloads before playing. I think the seasonal rotation solution is a much better one, but it does make seasonal update downloads much larger. He finishes by saying the burden of testing old content sucks for development, but feels like a necessary burden and one that could be streamlined with automatic testing and player-accessible beta branches. TLDR, even if there isn't an ideal solution, taking away content players paid for isn't the best one. So some interesting reflections there, essentially regarding the content vault, and I feel like it was kind of a scraped together plan in the wake of Bungie trying to decide whether they're making D3 or sticking with D2, and the technical limitations that they were running into depending on specific platforms there. But content vault will always be one of those things that players dislike Bungie for, essentially.
Yeah.
Barrett responded to some other conversations. Somebody asked, would you go back to Bungie under Sony? And he simply said, I don't think they're going to ask, which I'm sure is probably correct. Somebody also asked, did you or any other devs at a similar level push for a D3, or was it always made clear it wasn't happening? Chris Barrett says, I pushed for no D2 originally, just a continual Destiny MMO, but at some point definitely pushed for D3. And he says, I even worked for about 6 months on a D2 sequel. And that's
crazy.
Pretty wild, I imagine.
The 6 months working on a Destiny 2 sequel is the most insane comment. Like, what? I want to see what that looked like.
It's one of the sequels that we've heard about, where we also heard about things like Project Payback, which was planned to be a different kind of Destiny game, under the direction of Luke Smith and Mark Noseworthy. Of course, all those things were canned. Chris Barrett had also spoken about his vision for Marathon, which Bungie had ultimately rejected, and that was going to be more of a survival experience as opposed to an extraction shooter. He specifically said extraction was never the influence for the game, and that the original goal was to have persistent characters, progression, as well as persistent worlds that you would load into, kind of like a patrol in Destiny 2 as opposed to it being a match format. But again, Bungie didn't want to do that, and oftentimes it seems like a lot of these decisions were actually based around how much work would be involved with these more fleshed out plans, as opposed to it being whether they thought it was a good idea, which is quite telling, and it actually makes a lot of sense looking at Bungie's current position. So it's interesting in the wake of everything that's happened in the last couple of months, where we've seen a lot of developers kind of talking about their experiences and personal perspectives on these things. Of course, we've seen other folks that openly criticized Pete Parsons. Robert Brooks, former narrative guy at Bungie, referred to him as the real Destiny killer, and other folks, like Nadia from the audio team, said that Bungie really treated the music team like dog shit in the end, just piecemeal to be plucked away at and extract value from. So a lot of people have been pretty candid about how they feel regarding Bungie overall. As always, give me any thoughts you may have down in the comment section. But some interesting revelations that actually connect to some of this development history. Of course, folks have been looking at the Project Sunrise stuff. Solus points out that Lost Oasis on Mars became Io in D2, as we spoke about the other day, and Pyramidion was essentially going to be a Mars raid, but at some point was cut in D1 development and then refactored for Destiny 2. Another interesting component is that players are comparing the graphics and lighting from the older build of Destiny 2 versus the existing one. Mason points out there is a considerable difference here, and is absolutely right. He shared a bunch of screenshots. The top images being
Dude, the lighting is so much better in the old game. Also, the lighting in Destiny 1 was better as well. Like, the farther back you go, the better the visuals get for this game, I swear.
Version of D2, the bottom ones being the old version, where I believe the main difference is, in terms of lighting at least, is that in the old build, lighting was far more kind of bespoke and tuned for very specific spaces, whereas the newer lighting system applied sort of blanket lighting effects. And as far as we know, as Try to Infect pointed out on Reddit, some of the content and system changes in that Beyond Light engine update were actually in development for Destiny 3. David Aldridge, a head of engineering at Bungie, spoke about the biggest post-Destiny 2 engine development effort, which was intended for a future Destiny game, but eventually was refactored and folded back into Destiny 2. So a bunch of the components that we got in Beyond Light, including the engine update, and of course, in turn, also including the Content Vault stuff, actually happened because they moved to a variant of the engine, which had been developed with the intention of being for the next Destiny game. So by the time we got to that third expansion for D2, obviously Bungie had already toyed with the idea of D3 and subsequently kind of changed their mind or pushed that back, which is quite intriguing. Last thing I'll say on the Project Sunrise stuff, but Electro on Twitter is taking that build of the game and then actually trying to push it further. As it stands right now, there are no collections or equipable items in Project Sunrise, but they've actually started to develop a usable inventory, which is something that hadn't been achieved with that build until now, and of course indicates the possibility that they could get even more parts of this build working over time. Who knows? Maybe eventually they'll get it fully fleshed out. Right, on to some other bits of news and updates. Mysterious Equal pointed out Bungie are still reacting to cheater reports in Destiny 2. Of course, most of them are handled manually, so there'll be some variation, but folks actually using cheats in the game are indeed still being banned. In other news, as Crotus Scrota pointed out here, wonderful name, because a lot of people don't seem to know about this, you can indeed customize Grandmaster Vanguard alerts, which are based on a -50 power delta. But if you remove the enemy banes, you can still get an S rank, which basically means you still get tier 5 drops. And so keep that in mind if you are going to farm for anything from GMs. You can indeed remove those and still hit the correct score to get the tier 5 drops, which is nice. Other pieces of news roundups here, but as GameRant posted a few days back, Destiny 2 player count is nearly 10 times bigger than Marathon, which isn't entirely news, but while Destiny's player count is naturally dropping following Monument of Triumph, looking over the course of the last week or so, at one point D2 had 34,700 players versus 3,600 players for Marathon, which is pretty mind-boggling that even 2 months after Monument of Triumph, the game still outperforms Marathon by a significant margin. Make of that what you will. We've spoken about it a few times. Otherwise, GameRant also highlight Destiny 2 players are flocking to the Division. And I've spoken about this in a couple of different videos, which sometimes kind of triggers like a loyalty discussion. I never really see things that way because I'm always going to like Destiny. And chances are, I'll still be signing in and playing Destiny well into the future, even if it isn't at the same level as what we did in the past. But there are a lot of people interested in the Division at the moment, because of course it's still a live game, and the dev team are committing to a future roadmap which includes content in Division 2, a major DLC coming up, and the promise of Division 3 further down the road.
The Division is cool, and it does tap into some of the things that you like in Destiny. It definitely doesn't scratch the itch the same exact way, and it's kind of an unfair comparison. It's not to put the Division down by any means. It's just what Destiny did was so incredible, and the Division feels like it's cool in its own way, but not as epic as Destiny. I wish that it felt like it was the Destiny replacement, but it's something else if you like that style of game, I guess. Maybe the next best thing right now, this or Warframe, I suppose.
It'll probably trigger really big Division fans here, but I would love it if they developed the ability to get first person in Division 3. Probably
hey, he said it. Let's go. I'm telling you, I'm #1 first person snob in the world. And I die on this. I don't care if everyone roasts me. There's plenty of great third-person games, but if you're going to play a shooter game specifically, a game where you shoot guns, that's 99 times out of 100, it's better in first person. I die on that hill. I'll forever say this. I've played God knows how many shooter games. I probably played more hours shooting games than anyone watching this video right now even. Like, my entire life has been playing these shooter games, from 007 GoldenEye, grinding countless hours in that game as a kid, till Destiny with my deranged 25,000 hours, and Call of Duty with being 10th prestige in like 5 different Call of Duties. Like, I've played so many shooter games, man. I'm telling you, first person is always the best. Always.
Not going to happen, but I do think one of the components that made Destiny so popular, on top of space magic and, you know, the various other Bungie or Destiny qualities that are established in the game, I do think simply the fact that it was a looter shooter live service, which was also an FPS, was a contributing part of that success. But regardless, a lot of people are checking out The Division again right now, and I've seen some discussion about player counts where people bring up Steam charts for The Division. It actually isn't entirely easy to get a sense of how many people are playing Division because, as far as we know, the Ubisoft launcher is the biggest platform on PC, and so looking at Steam really doesn't give you the full picture in this instance. Then of course, The Division also has a very large console audience, so while it has never quite been as popular as Destiny, the devs have very much indicated that they are trying to build momentum right now in the franchise in general as they work to...
The Division, Warframe, all of these people are seeing this incredible opportunity to soak up the hundreds of thousands or maybe even millions of Destiny fans that are now essentially refugees looking for a new home. And their hope is that, you know, they can attract you to their game. And that's fine. I mean, that's a perfectly fine strategy for them to have. The issue is that, you know, everyone in Destiny knew about these games for a long time, and if you liked them, you played them as well. Plenty of people played both Destiny and The Division, or Destiny and Warframe. I wish that they had some of those elements, right? Like, notice how, like, all of the Destiny replacements are all third-person games, I guess. Like, I mean, I guess maybe Borderlands is first-person. That's probably the closest one. But truly, if another game could drop right now, even if it was like nowhere near as big a budget as Destiny, if there was a first person looter shooter game right now, like a new one with, like, you know, a decent size to it, I think that a lot of people would be really interested in jumping into something new, something fresh, especially first person. I think that could soak up a lot of the Destiny audience, but obviously no one was sitting around planning and timing, you know, the death of Destiny 2 or expecting that. So now what you have is a few of these companies that are very well positioned to absorb the Destiny audience, capitalizing as much as they can. And then you're going to have other companies. There's going to be some copycat Destiny games coming out in the next few years. It'll probably take them a little more than a few years to get it done. But if there's shooter games that were being developed, they're definitely considering going the looter shooter route to see if they could, you know, make some money in that area. Obviously, Destiny dying is, you know, it's problematic in that you think, well, if Destiny died, then why wouldn't these smaller or lower budget games die as well? And that might be true. But the issue more for Bungie was just that they had such a big budget and they have such a lofty budget and, like, crazy salaries. And, you know, Destiny 3 has to be a $500 million project and all that. Whereas, you know, you could do what Destiny does really well on a smaller scale, and you could at least accumulate a large amount of customers. You know, imagine a game that is significantly smaller than Destiny, you know, 10% the size of Destiny, and it costs, you know, $20 or something. I think that people would play it. I think people would be like, whoa, okay. Like, even if it's very short lived, it's like, it's fun to enter into the world, first person, looter shooter, roam around, shoot some enemies, you know, maybe PvP, maybe not. I don't know. It depends. But right now we're in this weird in between time where, you know, Destiny's gone and, you know, we're just left with Warframe and The Division and, I guess, Borderlands until something big comes. But when will that come? What will the actual Destiny replacement be? Who knows, man? Who knows? We're waiting. We're placing our bets right now
towards Division 3. And I do think that they've got one of their biggest opportunities in quite some time if they make the right changes and adjustments and have the right content focus for Division 3. We're at a point in time where lots of people who are fans of looter shooters are looking for somewhere to go. And indeed, it may still be years until Division 3, but we've also seen reporting that indicates they are ramping up development. And so it is notable as far as live service looter shooters go. Let me know your thoughts about it below. But for the moment, that's what we got to discuss today. I will, as always, keep you posted if we do get any official word from Bungie about Destiny. They're still apparently committed to dropping a twit at some point, so I'll let you know if we hear about that. But for the moment, if you did enjoy the video, a rating would very much help me out. Be sure as well to get subscribed and I'll keep you posted with more content. But otherwise, thanks for watching, and I hope you guys have an awesome day.
All right, there it is. That was the breakdown from Houndish. Let me know what you think about it down in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next one. Someone said, I've heard that Blizzard is making a StarCraft looter shooter. Might be announced at BlizzCon. Dude, that would be incredible. That would be insane. Wow. Whatever it is, man, the next looter shooter, I feel like because there's a big hole in the industry right now from Destiny, this Destiny hole. And since Bungie is just completely incompetent, like they're just literally working on Marathon like a bunch of fucking morons. And Sony apparently has their fucking foot up their ass and they don't realize that like it's definitely worth it to have a looter shooter IP live service game. It's like, that's fine. Like someone else is going to come into this space and just do what Bungie did on a smaller scale with a smaller budget and make plenty of money to sustain it. You know, that's obviously what's going to happen. Like the fact that you have people like doing Project Sunrise and that alone is like a viral thing that has, you know, tens of millions of impressions and views across social media in less than a week. That shows you just how incredible the Destiny IP is and it's not just the Destiny IP necessarily. It's just a first person looter shooter game is incredible. Like that's just that there needs to be a game like that out there. First person looter shooter that has end game with raids. Like basically that's it. First person looter shooter raids. Boom. Done. Ship it. Anything. The IP could look different. It could look like Fortnite for all I care. I don't want it to look like Fortnite necessarily, but it could look like Fortnite and it would still be very successful. Like this is a genre that people like. This is a genre people that can get into. You know, if you've ever played a shooter game, it's pretty obvious what the objective is, right? You're shoot the gun at the bad guys. Which ones are the bad guys? They're the ones that are shooting you. You know, like it's so easy to understand how these games work. And they're so much fun, right? Clearly, I don't have to preach into the choir here, people that watch and play Destiny. That's going to be the last video that I can cover for tonight. However, we have a bunch of really exciting things to cover tomorrow, including a lawsuit against Sony. I would cover it tonight, but unfortunately, we got to go to bed. So we're going to go end the stream and edit some of those videos up and get them uploaded to the channels. So make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channels. There'll be some new content going up around the clock. Notifications on for those. Tomorrow's live stream will cover that lawsuit and various other Destiny topics and other games industry topics. There's a lot going on, and we're here to cover it all. So I'll see you for tomorrow's live stream. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thank you for the follows. Thank you for the subs, the bits, the donations. If you type something in the chat, I'll give you a shout out as I head out for the night. What's good, Jay Birdword? Later, Max. Later, Awesome One. Later, KBG. McKinney Sand. GG's. Have a good night. Later, Majestic. I'll see y'all back here tomorrow. Later, my zombie inside. And obviously, I want to continue my solo flawless dungeons. I still need to do 3 more, so I got to get back on the game and do that. I got a lot to do, man. There's news, there's solo flawlesses. I mean, so much to do. It's crazy there's this much to do. We'll cover that all